Welcome to the GETS Education Program. Today's subject is the invoice overview. The learning objectives for this session will ensure that you have a good understanding of the contents of the GETS invoice, that you understand the agency's responsibilities for GETS invoicing, including the monthly invoice review, and that you are familiar with the primary reports and tools available for your agency to better understand and manage a GETS invoice. If you're reviewing this with a CRM today, after this session you'll be asked to complete a feedback form to indicate your understanding of the material. We will review your feedback and, if necessary, incorporate it into a future session or have a one-on-one session with your agency. We are committed to your success. The agenda for this session is to look at invoice responsibilities and contents, and to look at invoice reports and tools. All of the 1,200 plus GTA customers have access to the tools we're presenting today. As a bit of history, before the AT&T and IBM contracts, GTA had two separate billing systems called RABS and PRISM for infrastructure and managed network services, respectively. They were two different invoices with no commonality. One of the goals of GETS was to have one invoice system for all GTA services. Another goal was to have an online self-service system where agencies could access the GTA invoice and related reports. Before we go into the invoice review, it's important that we understand common definitions regarding the invoice. So you have vendors, which are IBM and AT&T, our service provider partners. We have the service provider, which is the Georgia Technology Authority. The contract refers to the outsourcing agreements we have with IBM and AT&T. The enterprise is the state of Georgia agencies, colleges, and local municipalities that consume GTA services. When we talk about volume, we're talking about the quantity of services. This is not unlike your utility bill that would measure kilowatts for an electric bill. For resource units, it's the unit of measure for IT services based under the outsourcing contracts. And a service tower is a group of related resource units based on the services provided, like voice services, end-user computing services. INF is an acronym for infrastructure services, and M&S is an acronym for managed network services. Regarding the responsibilities of the invoice, GTA reviews the invoices with the vendors, and we make sure that we know what's going on as far as the drivers that's changing volume and charges. We also validate the vendors' invoices and make sure that they're complying to the contract that we have and the way they're billing us. And we also establish unit rates that are on the invoice to recover the cost of the services that are being provided. The agency reviews the invoice monthly. The agency is responsible to determine the appropriate cost center structure for reconciliation. We'll talk about cost centers in depth later in this presentation. The agency reconciles resource unit volume for accuracy. And they update their resource unit invoice detail, like usernames for PCs, usernames for emails, and other items like that. And the agency initiates add-remove activity for services through our online service catalog called Order Now. So the GETS invoice contents are charges from IBM and AT&T for their services, transformation charges. This will be covered in detail in a later session. There was an $83 million investment by IBM and a $38 million investment by AT&T that we bill out each month through the GTA invoice. There are pass-through expenses, like contract and license expenses. Gartner would be an example there. There's incremental project-related costs, whether it's by IBM or AT&T. It could be retained project costs for GTA, open enrollment for community health as an example of that. IV and V charges are related to large project oversight, could be on the bill as those oversight milestones are met. And then finally we have the GTA administrative fee. And it is the cost that recovers the direct expense for the GTA service management organization that oversees the IBM and AT&T contracts. This administrative fee is not for GTA's profit. GTA direct expense for the service management organization is in compliance with the principles found in the Federal Office of Management and Budget Circular A87. GTA's service management organization is made up of the Technology Services Organization, the BMO, the Business Management Organization. They're responsible for contract compliance. The CRO, the Customer Relationship Organization. Each agency has a customer relationship manager to help support them. And the ASO, the Administrative Service Organization. It's responsible for chargeback, billing, financial compliance, and asset management. The SMO organization structure enables proper management, governance, oversight, and process improvement. GTA account code structure. We're going to talk a lot about this slide. Every invoice has the capacity to assign costs to a 35-character account code, whether to a customer or to a customer's internal business unit or organization. The GA01, seen in the top table, are the leading characters that designate the state of Georgia in the GSMRT billing system. The agency code reflects the business unit setup in PeopleSoft today for agencies. In this example, you can see the Office of Planning and Budget, Department of Natural Resources, and GTA's agency codes. In order to render a separate invoice for an agency, the business unit must be first defined in PeopleSoft. We're currently not using the customer-defined field, but the identification field is what we refer to as a cost center. The cost center is a 15-digit alphanumeric field. Agencies can reconcile their charges from the cost center level. Every itemized charge on the bill today can be assigned to a cost center. Cost center should be meaningful to the agencies, whether it's the name of an application, the name of a mainframe job. You can use names for your remote offices in the cost center, or a PeopleSoft department ID. GTA's recommendation for agencies using PeopleSoft, if possible, is to correlate your charges on a cost center level back to your organizational structure in our enterprise financial system, as it makes sense to your business. This will assist you in identifying and assigning expenses. We did this at GTA, and it was a real effort for GTA's budget and asset management departments. But now we have direct relationships between our cost centers and our PeopleSoft structure. Conversely, if you choose to, you could put all your charges under one cost center. GTA does not recommend this approach. When cost centers are aligned to departments or business units, it is easier for those reviewing the invoices to get validation from businesses or department personnel, like asking our CTO to review Tier 2 storage and charges. Finally, GSMRT has the security features to keep agencies from viewing other agencies' invoices and reports, but can be set up also so that the user can see all the agency codes set up for business units and related to a single agency. Overhead and indirect costs. Resource unit charges on the GTA invoice recover vendors' direct costs of resource unit services as well as indirect costs, and those can be invoicing, planning and strategy, the systems like OrderNow, Maximo, GSMRT, project resources, and disaster recovery. These indirect costs are embedded into GTA's research units, and they're allocated throughout them. Volume thresholds provide safeguards. When GTA entered into the outsourcing contracts with IBM and AT&T, we bought the state flexibility. GTA's former contract with Bell South had a $32 million minimum commitment. With the variable rates in our current contracts, there is no minimum commitment with IBM and AT&T. In this example resource unit, the state gathered inventory information indicating the state had a volume of 2,000 units at the outset of the contracts. The vendors gave us a cost for those 2,000 units. In addition, GTA bought the flexibility to grow and decline volume as indicated by the upper and lower bands on this chart, also called thresholds. For every given resource unit on our contracts, there is a percentage above and a percentage below the baseline volume that allows the state the flexibility to change. In this illustration, GTA bought a range of buying power 30% above and 30% below the baseline volume in this example. The state has safeguards today that we previously did not. If the state resource unit volume exceeds these thresholds for 3 consecutive months, the contractual possibility for a pricing renegotiation between GTA and the vendor is available. Currently, 3 resource units are being reviewed because of the thresholds have been exceeded. Just like the price of gasoline, the rates can fluctuate, but you control your costs by pumping less, or said another way, reducing your consumption. The agency pays for what they consume. Rates will decrease as volumes rise above the baseline, and rates will increase as volumes drop below the baseline volume. Get invoice collection dates. So with our resource units, the agencies have to take an inventory snapshot in order to bill for those services. For AT&T, that snapshot takes place on the last day of the month, 2 months prior to the billing month. AT&T in turn bills us on the 5th business day of the month, and GTA makes our best effort to get the invoice out on the 10th business day of the month for AT&T services. For IBM, the majority of their resource units, the snapshot is captured on the 15th day of the month prior to the billing month. They deliver their invoice to GTA on the 10th business day of the month, and GTA bills customers with our best effort on the 15th business day of the month. It seems like AT&T has 2 months to get the invoice completed, but it's actually only 35 days between the snapshot and when they invoice GTA. IBM likewise has 25 days between their snapshot and when they bill us. We have an example of this timeline on the next slide. So you can see in this example, AT&T would bill us on the 30th. Their invoice would come to GTA on the 7th of December. GTA in turn would bill that out on December 14th. And then when you look at the invoice online through GSMRT, it would have a date range of December 1st to December 31st. And with IBM, their inventory snapshot date would be October 15th in this example, and they would bill GTA on the 15th of November, and GTA would turn that invoice out to our customers on the 22nd of November. And because of that, the invoice date range would be November 1st to November 30th. So as you can see, AT&T bills 2 months in arrears. IBM bills only 1 month in arrears. Because of the 2-month lag in AT&T billing, there could be a situation where a service may have been cut off, but will still appear on the bill for 2 months after the cutoff. Each resource unit has a defined date for their inventory snapshot. The majority of resource units for AT&T are captured on the last day of the month, 2 months prior to the invoice, while the majority of IBM resource units are captured on the 15th of the month prior to the invoice month. Invoice reports and tools. So first, we're going to look at an invoice example of the output of GSMRT. This example is M&S invoice. You can see in the header that the date range is there, and this example is for March 2013. The invoice units are listed on the left side, and you can see at the bottom there's a tower total for WAN services. In blue, you see hyperlinks. So if this was an online, we could click on that hyperlink and see the detail behind the resource unit charge. You can also see there's totals for the tower and totals for each of the resource unit. So we go from a unit, and then we get a unit rate. You multiply those together, you get the amount. You take that amount and multiply it by the GTA admin fee, and you see that admin fee charged there clearly, transparently. And then you add the amount and the admin fee together, and you get the total charge for a resource unit. This next report is the usage trend and variance report. This one is also for M&S in this example. You can see there's one line for each RU. You can see the quantity billed per month. And you can see the variance and delta for the previous month versus the current month. It's important to note that the months in this report represent the billing month for the volume, not the month the volume was captured, as we just discussed in the timing of the invoices. So where do you get these reports? Well, the reports can be found inside the GETS portal. The URL is at the top of this page. If you don't have access to the GETS portal today in the GSMRT, your CRM can help facilitate that. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there's a portlet for GSMRT, and the link is there. So all the GSMRT reports that we talk about today are located here. Once you click on that link from the GETS portal, you end up with a screen that shows you a list of all the GSMRT report menus. You click on Chargeback, and that'll take you to another screen that has a list of Chargeback reports. You'll click on that, and you'll get to the GSMRT Chargeback report list. Here you can see everything that's available today, the invoices that we talked about, and the trend reports. The account reports and crosstabs are reports that have been deemed unnecessary through the Invoice Communication, Education, and Enhancement project called Project ICE through a cross-functional team made up of agency personnel and GTA folks. So they're going to be removed, the account reports and the crosstabs, and replaced in the fall with more detailed reconciliation reports. So today we're going to go through a reconciliation scenario. I recommend that you start, in this case, with the trend and variance report in GSMRT, and the next slides we'll go through that scenario. So using the trend and variance reports, you can run a report for, in this case, infrastructure, INF it's called, and you can see the results for the end-using computing tower for December and January, and the variance and the delta. And you can see that our largest variance is for central campus laptops. So let's look more into that. So we can run the trend and invoice variance report at the cost center level. You could have started there. And then you look for the cost center with the changes in volume. In this case, we can see that the first change in volume that we see is a reduction in one laptop for the data sales cost center. Now in this case, this is GTA, and we've aligned our cost centers with our PeopleSoft department IDs. So let's look more into data sales and see why there's a reduction. So we run the invoice at the cost center level, and we look at the invoice for data sales. Now what we did here that's unique is we ran the invoice for December and January. And what that allows us to do is drill down into the central campus laptops and see what caused the change. So you can see, like I said, we pulled it for 2 months. It's for Data Sales Cost Center, and we're going to look at those central campus laptops. So when you drill in, you can get a result like this. So you can see we have a list of users for December, a list of users for January, and you'll note that John Harrell Jr. is not on the list for January. So I believe that he retired, and that's why he's no longer assigned to a laptop. You notice the date fields there are called the accounting dates, and by choosing that in your drill, you separate out the two lists. What's also helpful with this is that you can take your results, pass it on to your business owner if your cost centers are aligned that way, and they can verify what's transpired. Well, we know that that seemed like a lot of steps to get to that information, so we've made available currently today through email to the full service agencies a detail with identifiers report. So every identifier detail that's associated with the resource unit is in this report. In the example shown here, you can see that we've pulled the same January data for data sales for laptops, and you can see there's a total of 4 there, just like on the slide before. In the fall, this will be self-service through GSMRT, and you'll be able to get it once the invoice comes out. You won't have to wait for the email to be sent. We realize there's also situations where you might need more data, and there are ad hoc reports available that finance can put together for agencies. Here's an example of one. This is the monthly compare report. So it only shows where a change has transpired for a given RU. In this case, Central Campus laptops. You can see there was a change for John Harrell. He had a laptop in December and now not in January. If you are interested in this, there's currently not a subscription service available. I would ask you to talk to your CRM about working out what you may need, and they can work with finance, GTA Finance. Now, this is a listing of all the reports that support the invoice. The slide numbers are available where we've looked at an example already. So there's infrastructure invoice, M&S invoice. We looked at those. You can run a total invoice that combines infrastructure and M&S, but you can't drill on it. The hyperlinks aren't available. If you do a total account invoice, you will get infrastructure and M&S together, and if you drill down into those different invoices, you can do the detailed drilling. With the trend reports, we looked at the M&S one. There's one also for infrastructure. Something I'd like to point out about the trend reports is that you can pull those, any of these trend reports. You can pull them for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or 13 months. And you can do that going all the way back to commencement, which would be April and May of 2009 for IBM and AT&T respectively. And you can really get a history and see how your consumption has changed over time. There's the cost trend report that just shows you your trend in spend by dollars That goes all the way down to the cost center level if you choose. The resource usage trend report pulls IBM and AT&T infrastructure and M&S charges together in one report, but doesn't have the doesn't have the variance or the delta on it. And the cost trend by rate report is a good executive summary level report that shows trend by tower. Top 10 cost report will allow you to see what your biggest RUs are in terms of spend. You can choose, it says top 10, but you can choose 5, 10, 12, 20, 30, whatever number you'd like to plug into that field. Other reports that are available to support the invoice, the volume and charges and trend reports, which are called the VCT reports. Those are the interactive reports that are in PowerPoint that are distributed through your CRMs today. There's the detail with identifiers report that we covered on slide 26 that's emailed, and the monthly comparison report. That's an ad hoc report that we spoke about as well. The appendix to this presentation has more report samples. And these are the appendix contents. There's the available tool summary. There's the, there's the cost center creation and changes details, how in order now, how you can make those changes. If you don't know how to do that or not boarded into CRM, boarded into order now, your CRM can help you there. There's the resource unit definitions document that shows each resource unit, what tower it's in, a definition of the resource, how it's measured, and what date it's collected, or snapshot, a snapshot made for inventory for the bill. We also have other report samples that we didn't cover in the main body of this presentation that I just spoke to on the previous slide. Also, there's the cost estimating tool, which allows you to see if you made changes to your environment or wanted to bring in new services, what kind of spending impact that would have over a couple of years. It's done at the contracted unit rates, not the current monthly rates. So it's an estimating tool. It won't be exact, but it will give you an idea of spending impacts that way. And here's a preview of what's ahead. Like I said, in April we're going to be talking about transformation and also how to work with GTA. In May through October we'll be looking at different service towers. And when we look at those towers, we're going to talk about how you better understand that, how you know those resource units, and how you leverage our processing tools to better manage your service usage. That concludes our presentation today. If you're with your CRM and you have one, please complete your learning objectives evaluation. And like I said, our next session is in April on the 25th, and we're going to talk about transformation and how to work with GTA. Thank you for your time.